There's a spider right behind my computer. It's a tiny little one. It's cute, but I don't know what to do with it.
Take it outside.
It's very hot outside.
Put it in the elevator.
Why would I put it in the elevator?
So it can go down on its own.
Why are you useless, Danielle? Why are you useless today?
That'd be so funny.
I'll see if I can get it. Hold on. You're useless.
I'm not useless. It's going to be a great episode.
Hello, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Sam.
I'm Danielle.
And this is the podcast about sharing your weird media finds with your friends who don't know what you're talking about.
That's me!
Yes, Danielle. You, unlike every other time we talk, don't know what I'm talking about.
That's true. What are we talking about today, Sam?
Today we're talking about the 2009 film, Knowing.
Knowing. Like
Knowing.
Knowing.
Actually, no. It is. No, yes, it's K-N-O. Yes, knowing as in to know something, as in...
Not yes or no.
Yes, there you go. All right. English is hard, Danielle, is what I've realized.
What is this movie about? I don't think I've ever heard of this movie.
Well, it's a 2009 film, and it is a Nicolas Cage film.
Of course it was.
Yeah, we haven't had a good Nicolas Cage film in a while. We got to put this one on.
Did we ever have a Nicolas Cage film?
Yeah, it's a real good question, Danielle. I don't know if we have, which is a real oversight on our part.
I think you're thinking of when we were guest hosts on I Drink Your Podcast.
I did think of that because this movie is also about Nicolas Cage knowing the future. So
how many movies was he in where he knew the future?
I know, right? It's great. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out the I Drink Your Podcast episode about Next, I think it was called.
I can't even remember anymore. Yes, it was Next with Nic Cage.
It was Next. Fun movie, great podcast. We had a lot of fun on that episode.
Absolutely. So apparently there's a second. No, it's like Next to.
It's Next to Knowing.
Oh gosh.
So,
okay.
This is a 2-hour movie. It's very long. It doesn't need to be this long, but it is. So we're going to get through it. But first, I have a description for you, Danielle. This is probably my favorite description I've ever found.
Oh, really? It's a high
Yes,
bar.
Because I found on Amazon on the 4K Blu-ray version of this, and it is almost entirely wrong.
Okay.
Like, everything it says in the description is not correct for what this movie's about. Like, I don't know if they got like an early draft of the script or something to base the description off of, but it's just not what happens in the movie.
Somebody watched a completely different Knowing and wrote down the description.
Well, it's kind of similar, but it's also like not. So I'm just going to put this out here, and I'm not going to tell you what's right or wrong in this, and you're going to have to find out as I tell you about it in this episode.
I'm looking forward to it. A single father and chairman of his town's historical society. Oh, man.
Oh, good start. Good start.
Society is summoned.
I told you English was hard.
I am tired.
Yeah, I know. We all are.
Is summoned when a time capsule buried behind an elementary school in 1958 is prematurely unearthed because of a water main break. Single father. Summoned from where? The man...
The nether. He's summoned to the school.
I thought he like summoned through time.
Like when you summon a plumber, Danielle.
I really thought it meant summoned through time. I was like, what the heck?
Wow, you weren't kidding about your English skills today.
That's a bad start.
This is not good. This is not boding well for me getting through this movie at all.
Okay, everybody, he was summoned to the place where the time capsule was found.
I'm glad we clarified that. Thank you.
The man whose son attends the school sifts through the contents and finds drawings of what 1958 tykes predicted the modern world would be like.
Great word.
It's all flying cars and fantasy stuff, with the exception of one chilling entry. One child predicted some of the most horrible events in recent history, and there's one that hasn't yet occurred, which the man attempts to prevent. This sounds amazing.
It is.
So sad none of it's true.
I mean, it's like I said, the kernels of the movie are in there, but none of the details are right. Which I kind of love. Like, this is clearly about this movie, because there is a time capsule, there are letters, but that's, I mean, we'll see. You'll have to see. I'll just have to go through and you'll find out, and you'll be left wondering, hey, when does that happen? Like, it doesn't.
It doesn't ever. But he is summoned, correct?
No.
Darn.
Well, I guess it depends on what you really summon, Danielle. It's complicated, as we've established.
Okay, bring it on. Nick Cage in all his glory.
All right, so we open with a little girl. She's staring up at the sky while we hear creepy whispers. She's standing in a schoolyard during recess, and the teacher calls everyone back inside, and then words appear on the screen. Lexington, Massachusetts, 1959. So already, it's not 1958, it's 1959.
Is it ever 1958?
No.
Did they do the time capsule from 1958 and this is a year later?
No, they're doing the time capsule right now.
Oh, wow. Somebody didn't pay attention.
I know. It's amazing how bad this description was. I read them like, wait a minute. I thought for a second I clicked on the wrong link in Amazon to look at the description of the movie, but nope.
So 1959, creepy child.
Ominous music is playing, and she's just staring off into the sky. The little girl, who we learn her name is Lucinda, she ignores the teacher and continues listening to the whispers and staring up. And we crossfade to the class. The teacher is talking about how they have an opening day. I guess the school is just being opened recently. They're having some opening ceremony for it. And there was a competition among the students for the best idea to celebrate this opening.
But they're already open.
I know. I was confused by that too, Danielle. I guess they opened the school up, but like towards the beginning of the school year, they wanted to have some kind of ceremony to celebrate.
Sure. Okay.
I don't think it makes any sense because I looks like they're already halfway through the semester, but... The winner with the best idea was Lucinda, who suggested a time capsule. So the teacher goes on a brief explanation of what a time capsule is, and all the students are totally amazed by this concept. And she explains the idea is they each are going to draw a picture of what they think the world will look like in 50 years, and they'll put that picture in an envelope and put it in the time capsule, and 50 years later, they'll dig it up and look at the pictures and see how wrong they were.
I kind of like that idea of a time capsule instead of putting stuff from your
I know.
year.
It's not your typical time capsule.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's any better.
I know, but it'd be kind of fun to like look at it 50 years later and be like, wow, we were really wrong.
Yeah, but you don't need a time capsule for that. You can just like get a bunch of letters and like mail them to yourself or whatever.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be in a time capsule, Liam.
I know. You think they'd put at least like, I don't know, one greatest hit record from the day or whatever in there or something. But I don't know. I've only done a couple of time capsules, so what do I know?
I don't know if I've ever done a time capsule.
Yeah, my school did one. We put it beneath the peace pole, which really tells you a lot about my school.
Yes, it does.
I think we also buried our dead lizard from our class pet when it died there.
It's just like this little pile of dead animals in a time capsule.
It was an iguana, but yes, pretty much.
That's how you disturb the spirits when you dig up the time capsule. Sam, it's a terrible idea. It's like the beginning of a Stephen King novel.
I was like in second grade. It wasn't my idea.
I don't know about that. Questionable teachers.
This probably explains a lot about why I'm me today. Anyway, all the kids start drawing what they think will look like, and the teacher's walking around going, oh, yes, very good. That looks nice. Nice spaceship. Whatever. But Lucinda is very intently writing very quickly across the entire page, just over and over, filling the page up and like manically writing. And she's writing a string of seemingly random numbers. And the teacher comes up and is like, Lucinda, you were supposed to draw a picture. Time's up, Lucinda. And she just like takes the paper away from her and puts it in the envelope and puts it in the time capsule anyway, I guess.
Seems weird.
She's like, whatever. I guess it's fine. Doesn't even question why Lucinda wrote a series of crazy numbers and looks completely disturbed.
Good teaching.
We'll learn more about her later.
The teacher?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's also more ominous music playing. I'm going to say ominous music a lot in this movie because there's a lot of ominous music in this movie.
It seems that, I mean, based on that plot, that's completely wrong. It seems like there'd be some ominous music.
Oh yeah. It's a motif. So we fade to black and we fade back in. We are on the ceremony of them burying the time capsule. Lucinda is standing in the back holding a balloon in a hilariously creepy way, just like kind of like one of the twins from The Shining.
Yeah, of course.
But holding a bright yellow balloon. And she kind of looks worried. She just looks like uncomfortable or scared.
Well, if you potentially knew the future, which it seems to suggest in that summary, that would be terrible.
Then as we cut away for a second, we go back to her and she's gone. And the balloon is seen floating away up into the sky.
Ooh, spooky.
Cut to that night, police are searching the school looking for Lucinda. The teacher is helping, and they're using flashlights instead of just turning the lights on in the building for some reason.
Uh-huh.
Because I guess they want to have some ambiance. And like, whenever they're doing that, it's like when the power's out or there's a disaster. But it's like, oh, let's search the school, but we're not going to turn the lights on because, it's too late for that. We don't waste electricity.
No, it's like in a horror movie when they're looking for something and nobody turns the lights on. They just like walk into the dark house.
It's basically that, except it's a school and they have complete control for the situation.
They do in the house when you walk into it too, but they don't seem to turn the light switches on.
Yeah, it's equally stupid, Danielle. I agree. But the teacher then hears a tapping sounds coming from behind a closet. And so she goes downstairs and finds Lucinda in this closet with bloody fingertips.
No, I hate that.
Moving her fingers because she's been scratching something into the back of the door with her fingers.
Those scenes like that creep me out. That specific thing. That's why it's in movies.
Yeah, no, it's very creepy. This movie is actually quite well done in terms of the creep factor, which I'll talk about later. And so we see on the back of the door scrawled some numbers, like scratched in blood, and like her fingers are all bloody.
Ew.
And the teacher's like, what's going on? And Lucinda just goes, please make them stop. As we hear whispers. Cut to space.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not?
Yep, we cut to space. We pan over the Earth.
We see Sam in his International Space Station.
Actually, this is a disaster movie. I would be there, yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out our bonus episodes on Patreon if you are a patron. Nice plug, Danielle. Thank you.
You're all weak.
Yes, let's just pass on the back some more. So anyway, the credits roll, and I think we already had some credits at the beginning of the movie, and so we had like a brief pause, and then more credits. And I don't know if the title ever comes up on the screen. I forgot, but I think the title does come up. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
That's weird.
I know. I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, to this part of the movie. So the camera pans over parts of Earth, mostly cities as seen from space, and there's still more ominous music playing. It's like a constant ominous music. It's almost more noticeable when there isn't ominous music playing.
Maybe you should just point out those situations.
Nope, I'm going to do it my way.
Okay.
We zoom in from space down into a house in the woods. It's actually a really cool kind of shot because it looks very realistic. It's not like Google Earth cheap. It looks very well done. You see like a man and a little boy in this backyard. And we zoom down onto them. We cut to Nicolas Cage, who's named John in this film. He's looking through a telescope in his yard. And there's a caption, present day. So that's when this takes place.
Present day.
Yes, the present day. When? Figure it out.
Well, if they're going to open the time capsule. Wait, how did they get to the time capsule again? I forgot in the summary.
Oh, there's some summoning involved.
Do they? Yes, there's some summoning. But is it time to open this time capsule yet? Or do they just get to the time? It is?
Oh, yeah. They did that. 1959 was when they put the time capsule in the ground. This is present day.
So it's 50 years later is what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. They could have said 50 years later. They could have put a date on the screen of 2009, but they said present day to make it extra confusing.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Carry on, Nick Cage.
So Nick Cage is looking through a telescope in his yard, and he calls to his son Caleb to come take a look at this. Caleb puts a bunny he has back in a hutch and goes to look at Saturn's rings. John resumes grilling, and it's weird because it looks like it's midnight. It's so dark out. And unless it's like the middle of winter, but they're not, they're like wearing shirts, like short sleeves and, shorts. I don't think it's the middle of winter, so it just looks like it's grilling at midnight.
It's like summer. It's definitely past 9 p.m. when the sun goes down.
Yeah, it's very dark. It's not just like twilight. It's pitch black out. So anyway, then Caleb asks his dad if they found aliens yet. And John goes on to lay out like an abbreviated Drake equation parameter without actually calling it that. And he goes on to say something like, if you count the number of stars similar to our sun in the galaxy, then you factor in the probability that they have Earth-like planets orbiting them. And then he's interrupted by Caleb, who says, there are 10 million possible worlds, with 4 million mature enough for life to evolve. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold the phone. How'd you get the number 10 million? Because you just pulled it out of your butt. And then how'd you get the number 4 million out of that? Like, how do we know there are 4 million Earth-like planets out there that are mature enough to evolve to life? What does it even mean?
Well, you didn't let him finish his sentence, Sam.
No, that was it. That was the whole sentence. That's some technobabble BS. There are way more planets in the Milky Way than 10 million.
Maybe not in 2009.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, we'll get to that.
You got to factor in some time, Sam.
Well, remember, what was John's profession again, Danielle? Do you remember that from the description?
Oh, not at all. I was confused because I thought he was summoned from time, so...
What did it say? What was the very first line?
Is he? I don't know. What, would you like me to look?
Yes, I want you to do your job.
You're asking me if I remembered. I do not remember. Okay, and the answer apparently is a single father and chairman of his town's historical society. But apparently he's also an astrophysicist.
Actually, yes.
Is he really?
Yes. He is an astrophysicist. He is not a chairman of any societies.
Really?
Yeah, no, not at all. There is no historical society involved in this movie.
It's so weird.
That description is so confusing. It's like we're a parallel universe movie. It's like a Mandela effect thing.
But I do, like, maybe, I really think we're in an alternate reality right now in 2021. And so I feel like it's possible that there's like two movies that split up and one is like it's like 2019 version. Okay. And this is the 2021 version. He's an astrophysicist now, Sam. Suck it up and deal with it.
Well, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to question your perfectly infallible theory about the parallel universes.
Yeah, prior to 2020, he was probably chairman of his historical society.
All right. Well, we'll get to that, I guess.
I don't know why a Nick Cage movie decided to split into two different realities, but that's what happened.
To be fair, if any movie was going to have a weird split, it would be a Nick Cage movie.
That's true. That is very, very true.
Anyway, it's BS that his son, like, pulls these numbers out of his butt, and John's like, why do you even ask? And Caleb just says, just making sure you're listening. And I hate this kid. Because he then immediately runs inside and goes, I gotta go watch a Discovery program, and oh yeah, Dad, I'm vegetarian now, so I'm not gonna eat your famous hot dogs. And Dad's like, well, you could have told me that earlier. And he's like, I'm telling you now, weren't you listening? And then goes inside like, this kid's a real brat.
We should, I don't know.
Yeah. You gonna finish that thought, Danielle?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you for contributing. Let's move on.
That's what I'm here for. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
That's why they pay us the big bucks. Ugh. So we cut to John telling his son to go to bed. He has class tomorrow, and Caleb reminds him that he doesn't have class tomorrow since it's the 50th anniversary.
Yay! Present day.
Present day. The indistinct present day that is also 50 years from 1959.
1959. Or 58. You know.
Usually when they put like present day, they want to be like kind of vague so it can be any kind of time point, but we know specifically exactly what year it is.
I know, it's an odd choice.
This movie is so weird. Anyway, and then, unprompted, as John is putting Caleb to bed, he says out of nowhere, when I said we were alone, you know I was talking about space, right? I'm sure where Mom is, heaven or whatever. She's great, or she's doing fine. So clearly the mom/wife is out of the picture, and then Caleb goes, you don't believe in heaven. And John is like, I said we can't know for sure. If you want to believe, you go ahead and believe.
You do you.
I know, I was like, what? This is your like 9-year-old son you're talking to. And you're like, I don't really know about heaven. Just figure it out for yourself, kid.
I mean, that's realistic.
I mean, yeah, but like, she's clearly looking for some kind of reassurance from his father, which he's not getting.
No. Well, some people are more reality-based, Sam.
I guess. Well, he's an astrophysicist, I guess.
So they're just trying to figure out his character in this movie.
That'll be difficult. The character is Nicolas Cage.
The best character.
My favorite. So then Caleb takes out his hearing aid and John signs to him, you and me, and Caleb signs back together forever, and the lights go out.
Aww.
I know. John leaves the room and sighs before going down to his office, which looks like it's in a dirty basement, but it's not. It's just a dirty room. It looks like it has a concrete floor and dirty walls. I was so confused by this space. It looks just a mess. It looks like a dilapidated house. But anyway, he gets a glass of whiskey, he plays some classical music, and he sits in an armchair and stares at a small wrapped present on a shelf while sighing. Poor John.
Is the wrapped present from his wife?
I don't know.
Do we ever get back to it?
Yes.
You still don't know who it's from?
I don't know if it was from his wife or for his wife.
Okay.
I think it might have been for. I don't know.
I'll try and make an educated decision when we get to it.
Yeah, good luck. We cut to the next day at MIT. John is lecturing on randomness versus determinism in the universe.
At his historical society.
Yeah, right? I thought here he might be a math professor. We later learned he's an astrophysicist, so I got that wrong.
Woo! I got it right, though.
Oh, you got it right.
Good job, Danielle.
Well done, Danielle. I'm very impressed. The students answer questions, but mostly it's just to explain to the audience what determinism is, which is that all events can be predicted by preceding events and natural laws, and that there's a reason for everything.
Well, Lucinda would probably agree.
We'll get to that. John then tosses a model of the sun to one of the students, Spencer, who is played in a cameo by Liam Hemsworth.
Ooh, younger one?
I don't know. I can keep them straight.
2009? I mean, that was a while ago.
Yeah. And asks him to tell him something about the sun. Spencer replies, it's hot.
I mean, that is not untrue.
And he's asked to elaborate. He explains that the temperatures are, so hot and, this many degrees in the mantle, this many degrees in the core, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And John is like, good. And he asks another student about the composition of the sun. She's like, oh, it's hydrogen, helium, blah, 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 blah. And then he says, think about the perfect set of circumstances that put this ball of fire just the right distance from Earth for life to evolve. And there's a lot wrong with this sentence, I think, because that's not exactly uncommon to have a planet in a habitable zone. But luckily, John has the same thought, because he then goes on to elaborate on the other side of the argument, which is that it's all simply coincidence. So there's eggs on my face for questioning the brilliance of this movie.
For questioning Nic Cage.
Yeah, I never should have done that. My mistake, Mr. Cage. Please forgive me. And he's like, we only exist because of a complex string of chemical accidents. There's no grand meaning. There is no purpose. And he sort of like drifts off and like stares off into the distance. And all the students are like shell-shocked, okay. As he just stares off into space looking sad.
You're like, Mr. Teacher, you okay? Do you need some help?
Yeah, basically. In the meantime...
I have no good therapist.
Do you?
No.
Then you're no help to me.
But somebody in the class likely does.
Probably. So in the meantime, some dude who is played by Ben Mendelsohn.
It's quite the cast.
He's quite a good cast, right? He has quietly entered the room and is lurking unnoticed by the door. A student asks John, what do you believe? Is it all meaningless, or is it determinism, or is it randomness?
They didn't get that from him drifting off and staring off into space.
Yeah, well, he breaks free from his reverie and then he says, he's on team randomness. That's just me. Class dismissed. So a real pick-me-up of a class.
It sounds like a great one.
Yes, I really learned a lot about astrophysics in that philosophy diatribe. The guy by the door enters, and there's some extremely forced banter to introduce him as a cosmology professor and John's friend Phil, and that John's an astrophysicist. So this is when we get confirmation of John's profession. We cut to them walking down the promenade, and Phil is like, do you remember Kim's little sister, PhDs? I'm like, all right, I already hate you, Phil, for being a kind of pig.
Why are all the sidekick characters in your movies just terrible humans?
I don't know. Why are they all just like casually misogynistic? It's terrible. And then John says, is it okay to say that about your sister-in-law?
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah, I know. And then Phil just like brushes it off and is like, yeah, it's fine. It's scientifically true. It's being peer reviewed. I'm like, you're a terrible person. But he's bringing it up because his wife, Kim, he wants to invite John to dinner at their house with his sister-in-law because she has expressed some interest in getting to know John better.
A blind date without being blind.
Basically, yes. And John's like, oh, I'll think about it. And he's like, oh, I have to run off because he's missing the ceremony for his son with the time capsule. So he runs off to go to
no. So he's not summoned.
No.
He definitely goes on his own accord.
Yes. So after the ceremony, John arrives while the kids are singing, and they wrap up, and there's some, speeches, blah, blah, blah. It's a time capsule. We all know how this works. And they pull the capsule out, so there's no water main that breaks, and there's no time capsule that's pulled prematurely from the ground. It just is pulled at the right time.
Weird summary.
I know. I really want to meet the person who wrote it and just, figure out what the heck is going on. Did they just, I don't know, were they watching two different movies at the same time and got confused? Or were they, skipping back and forth through the movie and, not paying attention?
Maybe they read a script version and it's different than the actual version.
Yeah, possibly. Either way, the cotton capsule is pulled out, and the janitors who are doing it, they look kind of unhappy, and yet more ominous music is played while this happens.
They look unhappy because they had to dig a giant hole in the ground?
No, it was not a giant hole. It was like a manhole cover. They pulled the manhole cover and they pulled it out of a concrete cylinder in the ground.
Oh, they did it fancy.
I know. It was real fancy one. And they kind of just looked very severe and ominous. Everything's very ominous, Danielle.
Are the janitors in on it? Do they know something?
We'll get to that.
Do they work with Lucinda?
We cut to John talking with Caleb at a celebratory picnic.
Did they open it yet?
No. So they're about to open it, and they're opening up the time capsule over...
Wait, so they pull it out, then they have a celebratory picnic, and then they actually open it.
Yeah. At least that's my understanding. Maybe they opened up before the picnic. I don't know. Just a lot of cuts in this movie.
That seems like a weird order, but okay.
Well, it seems weird to open up a time capsule in the middle of, a field with a bunch of kids. We'll get to why I think this is a bad idea in a moment, but...
Okay.
They open the time capsule. All the kids crowd around like a zombie horde, clawing for envelopes that are being pulled out of this thing. And the old teacher from the 50s is there, and she's like, don't worry, everyone will get an envelope. I'm just thinking to myself, why are you just passing out these old documents to a bunch of elementary school kids at a picnic where they're already hopped up on sugar? It's chaos. She's randomly, you want to do this in the classroom, they can open them and look at them and then discuss what they see on them and talk about them. No, they just pass them out to the kids, look at them, and then give them all back. That's how this works.
That seems odd.
It's really a terrible idea. The kids just tear them up going, oh, cool, look at that, a spaceship. And then there's no discussion. There's no engagement with historical context. None of that.
That's sad. All that work 50 years ago for nothing.
Well, not for nothing, because Caleb pushes his way up front and his hearing aid starts going all squealy, and we hear the whispers again.
Of course, because he's going to get Lucinda's envelope.
How did you guess?
Because
It's a movie?
That's how movies work.
Yeah, because he, of course, was giving Lucinda's envelope.
Otherwise, we'd be following some other child.
Right. With the paper inside, it's covered in a string of seemingly random numbers. Caleb looks at the paper, hears more whispers, and then he lowers it and he sees this strange, weird man standing off in the distance watching him.
Is it a janitor?
Nope. Not one of the janitors, Danielle. Pay attention. And then the kid comes up like, oh, what's that? Numbers? Lame. Oh, he's got a spaceship on. You're supposed to get a picture. And then when Caleb looks back, the man has disappeared.
Of course.
Yeah.
The non-janitor.
The strange man. He's just called Stranger in the subtitles.
Oh, good.
Back at home that night, Caleb complains about his hearing aid and is making funny noises. John suggests turn the volume down, which, Dr. John here, hearing aid expert, telling his son to turn his hearing aid down to solve the mechanical problem. I'd be more concerned. Like, maybe we should get that checked out.
Yeah, we want to check it out so that he could hear if he wants to.
Yeah.
But can he not hear at all when it's turned off?
No. So they have this conversation with the hearing aid out and without signing. They don't establish if he's deaf at this point, but it doesn't seem he's deaf.
Okay.
So it might just be like impaired a little bit.
I was just wondering if the whispers could get to him if he turned off his hearing aid, because that'd be pretty funny if they were evil whispers and they're like trying to whisper to him.
Hey kid! Hey! Darn it! Jimmy! The kid got his hearing aid. What am I supposed to do with this? I can't whisper to him anymore. Want me to shout? There's nothing ominous about shouting.
I want to read that story.
That'd be a pretty fun movie. Frustrated ghosts. Caleb then asks if he can go to a sleepover, and John's first like, oh, that seems cool. And then Caleb mentions his friend's dad has a boat and they go out on the lake, and then John's like, no, think about it. Caleb's like, that means no.
That's true. That's parental code for probably not.
And then John's like, it means I'll think about it. Now do your homework and go to bed.
That's like something my parents would say.
Yep.
Means I'll think about it.
Then John notices that Caleb took the time capsule paper home with him because he thought it might be a puzzle. And John's like, well, that's all very well and good, but it belongs to the school. You're taking it back tomorrow. And so then he tells Caleb to go to bed. And when he goes to check on Caleb, he sees him watching a home movie of his mom singing him to sleep. Aww. And then...
Does his mom make some kind of weird ghostly appearance later?
We think of Signs?
I don't know if I've ever seen Signs all the way through, but
that's
I'm just
probably
curious.
For the best. I won't tell you, Danielle.
Okay.
I like how in one of our episodes you chastise me for asking questions you can't answer that you're not going to answer, and then you do the same thing.
That's the entire premise.
I know. That's exactly what I said then too. It's just nice to see it on the other foot this time.
We can argue it all we want, but that's literally the entire point of our relationship.
I just love how we both ask the questions, and we both get frustrated with the other one for asking the questions.
It's like 18 years of friendship of us just asking questions the other person won't answer.
Yeah. I'm sorry everyone for having to listen to this. So John then leaves and gets his whiskey and watches some TV about tigers. He places the whiskey down on the capsule page and creates a ring around it. And he's like, oh, darn. And then he notices something. He looks intently at it. He then goes to a whiteboard. He writes down some of the numbers. And he starts putting slashes between some of the numbers. And he's like, it doesn't work. And he erases them and puts some more slashes. And eventually, they make a date. Guess what the date is, Danielle?
It's present day.
No. It is 9/11/2001.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. The date is 9/11/01, and there's another number next to it, 2996. So John goes and Googles that number, and
I'm like, what's that?
and learns that in 9/11, one of the official body count was 2,996.
Okay.
Lives were lost that day. Now, I don't know if that's true.
I'm going to assume it is.
Let's assume it is for the movie.
Yeah, at least in 2009 it was.
Sure. And he obviously is very kind of freaked out by this. So he tears the whiteboard off the wall, and he takes it to his creepy office, and he starts copying all the numbers across the whiteboard. Like, he makes a duplicate of all the numbers from the page onto the whiteboard, the whole string, just fills it up. And he starts circling numbers and Googling numbers and circling numbers, and he starts finding that there are all these different disasters, and they all coincide with the dates on the board. So it's always going to be like a date and then a body count. Date and a body count. Everything from earthquakes to shootings to fires, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I can't explain the body counts, but one could argue that we have some kind of disaster pretty much every single day.
Yeah, Yeah, there's
So
that.
dates are arguable.
We'll get to that, Danielle. But also, the body counts themselves are kind of arbitrary because usually in disasters, we don't get exact body counts. They're usually estimates, and those estimates change frequently.
Right.
Because it's hard. I mean, they're disasters. It's hard to find exact body counts for people, and they're tragedies. I don't want to minimize them at all. And this movie doesn't seem to minimize the tragedy of these disasters, which is a good thing.
It is.
Problematic because exact body counts are hard to get because they're disasters and they're just chaotic and tragic events. So I'm not really sure that any of this really fits. But
we'd be terrible in this situation, Sam.
We'd be like,
maybe it's creepy. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, we'd be bad at this. I'll be honest. We're too skeptical.
We would never be the leads in this movie.
Oh, absolutely not. None of us can live with Nicolas Cage anyway.
That's true. Not even with our powers combined.
No. It's the worst of anything.
An ice dragon.
What?
Never mind. Continue on, Sam.
Ice dragon, huh? All right.
Wonder Twin powers activate.
Okay. Yeah. Sure, you had to go for Ice Dragon. Anyway, let's just move on from all that.
It was a solid reference.
It seems the paper predicts everything from Hurricane Katrina to earthquakes and shootings, etc., etc. He then sees the date 10/27/08 and freaks out and drops his glass. Is that date in the future or the past? I don't know, since this movie only said present day.
There's no time. That was such an odd choice with this movie. Entire premise is based around dates.
I know. I assume it's in the past because it says 08 and this is presumably 09, but I don't know if like the title cards were put on the movie after it was like shot, you know, like if they changed it to match the release date or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't think it did. I think that is a pass. Doesn't matter. The next morning, Caleb wakes up and calls for his dad. He needs to go to school. John drops him and the other carpool kids off, and Caleb notices he's acting a little strange. And John just like brushes off, like, don't worry about it, I'm fine. Just had to work late. We cut to the MIT Haystack Observatory. John is showing Phil all the info from the pages and how it matched up to every major global catastrophe for 50 years. And again, I have the same thought here, Danielle, like, what constitutes a major global catastrophe? Because it seems like there are a lot of catastrophes every day.
Right.
You know, some of the things that are in this paper are relatively small in terms of disaster compared to other things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like there are literally hundreds of things on this page. It seems like there are maybe, you know, less than 100. So I don't think it really covers all the disasters all over the world.
Especially over 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm already like, this is a very selective paper for what disasters it wants to share.
Again, we'd be terrible at this game.
Yes. But he's like, all global catastrophes, all of them for the past 50 years, except for 3, which haven't occurred yet. The next disaster conveniently predicts 81 people will die. Guess when, Danielle?
Present day.
The next day. Tomorrow.
So, almost present day.
Almost present day. Nearly the present day. Phil is understandably dubious. John then shows Phil a news article about the fire his wife died in. And he's like, it's on the list too. It's like,
why? Okay. Yep. Okay. Why would, no offense to his wife, why would one singular person's death be on that list?
It was like at a hotel until a lot of people died.
Okay. Okay, fine. I'll give it a pass.
But then that goes back to my previous point. It's like, what constitutes a global disaster and why do they always seem to be in America?
Because that's how American movies work.
They're not all in America. There are a lot of them all over the world. But it's still, this is very like, oh, a hotel fire counts as a global catastrophe. I mean, I'm not trying to say that hotel fires aren't immensely tragic things, but I wouldn't call it a global catastrophe.
Right.
I'm just saying the parameters for what you can predict, what those papers trying to predict is kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Which comes into play later.
I'm not sure about this premise.
And John's like, this isn't a joke. I saw them dig up this time capsule. I saw them get the sealed envelope. It's like, how do you explain that? And Phil points out like, hey, you've only circled some of the numbers on this page. There are a lot of numbers that aren't circled. Maybe this is just like random and you're just finding patterns here because, you know, people are good at cherry picking numbers and finding the patterns they want.
Yeah, I hate to agree with misogynistic John. No.
Phil.
Yeah. I was like, what's his name? They all have similar names. But, they might be random.
Yeah. And John says in typical Cage overacting that I love, I'm not saying 81 people will die tomorrow. I just want to understand why this says they will.
Well, you'll find out tomorrow.
And Phil's like, yeah, it's spooky, but, you know, people see patterns when they want to see patterns. I think losing Allison has clouded your judgment. And John is very upset by this very reasonable assessment and just leaves.
He's like, no, you're wrong.
You're wrong. I lost my wife. I've been drinking every night alone in a chair staring at a present from or for her, but I'm totally clear-headed.
A present that may or may not be connected to my wife.
Yeah, but I'm totally clear-headed. Yeah, nothing's affecting me. I'm totally fine. So she's in denial, clearly.
Clearly.
So then John goes to see the old teacher and asks about Lucinda. And the teacher is great. I love her. She's like pouring liquor into her iced tea. Like, you want any iced tea? And John's like, no, I'm okay. And then he asks about like Lucinda, and she explains how she was missing the day of the time capsule, and they found her scratching on the door beneath the gym, of the closet beneath the gym stairs. And Lucinda never told anyone what had scared her so much or made her do that. And then John's like, well, can I meet her? Do you know where she is? And he's like, oh, Lucinda's passed. She's dead.
Of course she is.
Yeah. And then John just
But
leaves.
is she really?
Yes. So we cut to John on the phone talking to the school, trying to find out who the janitors were that pulled out the time capsule. I guess he thinks maybe they might have swapped out one of the papers as a prank.
One of the sneaky janitors over there like, this is going to be hilarious.
Yeah, right? Like, that's elaborate.
And I'll make sure that the son of Nic Cage gets it, so that therefore he'll see that his wife's date of death is on here.
Yeah, no, it's all pretty, like, he's clearly unraveling, I think is the point. Caleb is out playing in the front yard with his soccer ball when a car pulls up. We hear whispers, and there are two strangers in it. Caleb's hearing aid freaks out again, and the whispers sort of call to him. Caleb runs up to the car, and a hand reaches up from the car and gives him a little black rock.
A little black what?
Rock.
Oh, rock. I thought you said croc. And I was like, what?
No, a little black rock, not a crocodile.
Or like
or
a shoe.
or croc, yes, not an ugly shoe.
I was just very perplexed for that. I was like, that can't possibly be what he said.
It wasn't, Danielle.
It's a little black rock. So did the whispers make him go up to the strangers in the car?
It doesn't, I don't know. I mean, he just seemed intrigued by that. He seemed like he had full control, but they definitely were like, it seemed like he was being called by the whispers.
Nobody told him about stranger danger.
We'll get to that. So John runs outside like, what did I tell you about talking to strangers?
Thank you.
He's like, what did they give you? And Caleb gives him the little rock, and he's like, okay, cool, that's weird. And then he's like, go do your homework. Then they cut to John in his office Googling Lucinda, and then a woman, who is played by Nadia Townsend, sneaks up on him and gives him a spook.
A spook.
Little spook. He's like, ooh, boo. The woman is Grace, who is John's sister. John and her don't seem to get along that well, and they had the little expositional fight where she's like, you know, oh, what's your issue with Dad? Allison wanted Caleb to have a grandfather in his life, and like, well, your Dad's a pastor, and they had some kind of falling out, I guess, probably over like John's lack of belief, I would assume.
Probably. If it's not otherwise specified in the movie.
It's not.
Well, if you had an astrophysicist for a son that felt as he does.
Yep. And then John's like, okay, you gotta leave. And then she leaves. So that was fun. But not before she makes an offer to take Caleb off his hands once in a while so he can like get out there and have a life. And he's like, I don't want that. I'm doing fine.
It would be good for him.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for him. But he's like, no, we're fine. We have a good thing going here, Caleb and me. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're
use
clearly
your son
not
for
in a good
therapy,
place.
but fine.
Yeah, no, he clearly needs help. So that night, John is watching the news, looking for the disaster, and Caleb watches him from the stairs for a little while, and then eventually John passes out, only to be woken up by Caleb calling him from the school they need to come and pick him up, because apparently it's 3 p.m. now or whatever.
So it's like the whole next day.
Yeah, whole next day, the day of the disaster, apparently.
Well, I'm glad the little kid can get himself to school.
Well, I think he's part of a carpool, and he got picked up.
That's good.
It's a rotating
But some
carpool.
kids wouldn't be ready in time.
Yeah, that's true. You mean you, right?
No, I was definitely an on-time person. Sam, I was an on-time kid.
I don't know how you did that as a kid. I don't know how far back you went, Danielle.
I'm assuming. I might have fallen back asleep. That would probably be, if I could get up, we'd be fine.
Okay, there we go. And so John leaves in his truck, and it's raining heavily, and they get stuck in traffic. There's something going on. So John decides to call Phil and apologize for his freak out earlier, the previous day. He's like, all right, you know what? I will come to dinner Friday. That sounds good. And then as he's talking, he notices that on his GPS, there are latitude and longitude coordinates. And those happen to coincide with the numbers on the page that are the ones he hadn't circled.
Of course. I can't believe it took him that long to figure out it was latitude and longitude.
He's an astrophysicist.
I know, but
I would have figured out any of this. I would never figured out it was a date.
That's fair. I probably wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
I would have returned it and never been sucked into the Whisper's evil plan.
Yeah, no, I've been like, oh, all right, I don't want to deal with this. Bye.
The world would have just ended. We would have never known we could have prevented it.
Well, only 81 people are going to die, supposedly, anyway.
Well, this one time.
Well, we'll see. So, he notices that coordinates had to be the exact same coordinates that are up on his GPS right now.
Uh-oh.
So the disaster is going to happen right here.
Right where he's sitting or at the school?
Where he's sitting in traffic. Like wherever he is in traffic, that's the coordinates that are on the GPS, the same on the paper.
This is like a weird version of the Mothman prophecies.
Or you'll see Final Destination. So John gets off his truck and walks up to the front of the traffic jam where a tanker truck is jackknifed. John asks the officer, he's like, what's going on? And the officer says, everything's fine, just a few minor injuries. And the officer looks something behind John and like his eyes get real big and he starts freaking out running. And John turns around and this is at once like hilarious and tragic. Like this is something this movie does very well. John turns and sees this jetliner just barely like right towards him, like feet away. And apparently no one heard the engines or anything.
I tell you would hear the heck out of that.
Yeah, no, but there's a jetliner. It's bailing right for them. In fact, as he turns, its wings clip through some power lines. It then skims the road of the wing and then crashes off to the other side of the road and explodes. And it's comical in one way because it's just like, oh, a tanker truck's probably going to explode. There's a jumbo jet crashing. Uh-oh. Like just out of left field, out of nowhere. And the CGI isn't exactly amazing, but it's pretty good. But then like this disaster scene is actually really intense. So John basically runs over to the plane after it explodes, like he can do anything to help. And he's like running past, there's like a guy on fire running by screaming. And John tells him, hey!
Stop, drop, and roll!
Like he's going to help the guy, or has to ask the guy a question. The guy just ignores him because he's on fire. And there's just like screaming and wailing and people yelling for help and John's trying to help people and people are burning. It's actually pretty intense. This movie does a good job of like the disasters being intense and kind of like scary.
Do you think people in movies who are on fire don't stop, drop, and roll because they're on fire and they're panicking, or did they just never learn that as a child?
I would say if I was on fire, I would not count on myself to be that, have that presence of mind to stop,
really?
drop, and roll.
Because I think stop, drop, and roll a lot. I don't know why. It's like really stuck in my head as a kid.
I'm gonna say if I was just like thrown out of a plane that crashed, I might be a little frazzled.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I just like, it's so ingrained in my head. Every time I see a burning person on screen, I'm like, stop, drop, and roll.
You're very smug about your ability to be completely fine in a disaster,
I don't know
Danielle.
what would happen if I were in a giant plane that just crashed and I happened to be on fire. Like, that seems like it would overwhelm your senses. Maybe I wouldn't stop, drop, and roll, but I very rarely see any person on a movie or TV show that's on fire ever stop, drop, and roll.
How many times have you seen anyone ever stop, drop, and roll?
Well, I've never seen anybody on fire in real
There
life.
you go, Danielle. We don't know if it's accurate or not. We have no baseline to compare it to.
No, but it's so ingrained in my head. I'm curious.
Firemen out there, how many times have you seen someone stop, drop, and roll? Like, isn't that happens frequently in the real world, or are movies pretty accurate that people just sort of ignore it?
Then just forget because they're on fire and it hurts, which I totally understand. I also just thinking that, like, you know how you do emergency drills? Because the concept is if the emergency happens, you're supposed to just go by route memory to like do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's like, in my experience, things that I've practiced over and over and over again, like I tend to do them during emergency situations.
How many times have you stopped, drop, and roll in the last year?
I don't know, but I'm just saying it's so ingrained in my head. I'm wondering
how many
stop,
times have you
drop, and roll.
practiced stop, dropping, and rolling, Danielle?
How many times? I don't know. We did as kids.
Yeah. See, it's not something that's ingrained in your muscle memory.
The phrase is in your head, though. So it's just a hypothetical, Sam. I don't know.
Yeah. The phrase, of like how to suture a wound could be in your head. Doesn't mean you can actually do it.
Well, I don't know how to suture a wound. I maybe could figure it out if I was alone on an island and I had to.
But you could read a little paragraph. It's in my head. And like, it's not the same thing as having the muscle memory to like react in disaster.
No, but the mental memory is there. So I'm just curious because you never see anybody almost ever in a movie do that. So don't. Firemen, I would agree. Let's like pull the firemen that listen to our podcast. Or
the EMTs, anyone who's had experience with people on fire who can tell us how often people actually stop, drop, and roll, or if it's really not that common thing. I would be super curious if that ever is like actually ingrained in people's head, or if it's totally true to life in a movie that people just panic, which is understandable. Well, I'm so glad we have this diversion, Danielle.
I was curious.
The point is, I'm trying to explain how this is a very affecting disaster sequence.
I got that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail us entirely from that point, which, yes, it sounds very dramatic and terrifying.
Yeah, again, kind of intense. And so I want to give the movie props for managing to do that in like not a spectacle way. It felt like this movie makes a lot of mistakes and is very weird, but I felt like the way to handle disasters was well done and not like cheesy or like Final Destination kind of thing.
Right. So is this the same date that was on the paper? Because Because I thought yesterday he was trying to read the news or watch the news to see.
He started watching it like at midnight. And he fell asleep on the couch.
I thought he was watching it for that day.
No, he's watching it. It's like to try to catch it when it happened, like breaking news. And he didn't know what was going to happen, so he just watched it all day until he fell asleep.
Are all the rest of the events on that paper in town, local?
We'll get to this, Danielle.
Of course they are.
Answer is no.
Really?
Yes, of course not.
Just curious. Everything else seems to be tied into him.
So, anyway, John is running through the wreckage, trying to help people. He briefly performs CPR on somebody, and then is quickly replaced by some EMTs who actually know what they're doing. And then it's clear that John, has some PTSD coming to him from this. He is clearly freaked out, which is reasonable. So then we cut to black, and then we cut back to John driving home that night. Mm-hmm. Grace is at his house watching the news with Caleb. She wanted to pick up Caleb. Obviously, he was traumatized.
He was stuck in traffic.
Yeah, both. Stuck in traffic and disaster, Danielle.
I was being low-key about it.
So Grace is there watching the news about 4 crash landings, actually, that happened that day. Not just 1, but 4. But only one of them ended in disaster.
So 4 planes crashed?
4 planes had a crash landing
in one day.
So there is some brief snippet of the news about solar flares causing interference or something.
Okay. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Air travel is awfully safe.
It very much is. So like one of those ended in disaster, and John walks in. He's shell-shocked. He's getting a hug from Grace, and he notices that on the news, they mentioned the body count is 81 people. So they got that number awfully quick.
Yeah, it was only, a couple hours maybe?
Yep.
Tops?
Yep. And so it's confirmed. The paper is telling the truth.
That's good. Glad he knows.
So John goes upstairs and plops down in his room, and then Caleb comes in about what's happening. He's like, what's going on? You can't keep everything from me. You're clearly agitated. Although he's like, you can't just not tell me what's wrong. I'm old enough now. I'm no longer a little kid. That kind of thing.
I'm a mini adult.
Basically. And John's like, it's fine. My truck broke down. That's all. And Caleb's like, yeah, right. But John just tells him to go to bed, go do his homework, go to bed, and leave him alone because he has to go to bed because he's tired. And so Caleb is understandably upset, and he just leaves mad at his dad.
He could tell him that he saw the plane go down.
Yeah, you could, but he wants to be extra secret. I think he's a little overprotective after their mom died.
But it's not, I don't know if that really does, you can just say I'm shook up because I saw that plane come down. I don't think you have to necessarily go into any kind of detail or talk about the note. I'm not defending
Danny. I'm just saying he wants to shelter his kid from all the evils and dangers in the world.
Yeah, but he's just watched the news on it.
He just want to expose him to. I don't know if he did or not. Grace was down there. He's like, Caleb's upstairs. She didn't tell him anything about it. He asked her, did you tell him about this? Like, no, good.
He's going to hear about it the next day at school.
I mean, I'd say he was doing an effective job of it. I don't think it was a smart idea. I'm just saying that's what he's doing.
The airplane went down in their town.
Danielle, I agree. I don't think it's smart, but I'm not saying he's being rational. His wife just died a few years ago, and he's trying to protect his son. He's clearly freaked out from a traumatic experience and not thinking clearly. I don't know what you want.
And a magic paper.
Well, you seem to be like, what doesn't make any sense for wanting to shelter his kid?
No, I was not saying that. I was saying, why didn't he just tell him? He thought, because it would have been an easy way to clear the air of yeah, I'm upset because I saw that. Now leave me alone and go to bed kind of thing. Because the kid would have probably accepted that as an excuse and moved on.
I mean, maybe, but clearly he just doesn't want to talk about it.
Which is fine too. That's a choice. Just saying the kid clearly isn't going to give it up.
Well, he does. That's 1 point for John.
Kids.
I know, right?
I was just trying to think of another solution, Sam.
I appreciate you trying to solve all of John's problems, but let me tell you, Danielle, they are intractable.
Not saying I would do any better than John in this situation.
No, I think that's fair. I just want to say I'd never want to be on fire. So I'll leave it at that.
No, I don't either. It's one of my top 10 one way to not die.
There we go. Between that and drowning, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, actually, those two are my tops.
Yeah, I figured.
As you know. It's my deep concern for whales that makes my fear of drowning a concern.
Oh, really? I thought that was
I really like to breathe is actually my thing.
Oh, you like to breathe, Danielle. You don't say.
What I don't even like to be under covers. I'm not claustrophobic. I just don't like to be under covers. I like clear breaths.
I never knew anyone who liked to breathe, Danielle. That's weird.
I just mean I really like to breathe.
You like to breathe more than the average person, okay.
Yeah, I don't like to hold my breath. I don't.
Good to know, Danielle. For someone who does a lot of swimming, that's a weird thing to have.
Yeah, but that's a little short, a couple of strokes and then breathe, a couple of strokes and breathe. It's a concentrated form. It's as opposed to okay, for 45 seconds I have to hold my breath. That's really hard.
Okay.
Not because I can't do it, but because it's like, I really want to breathe.
Great, Danielle. Thank you for sharing.
You brought it up.
Did I?
Yeah, you said drowning and fire were my two top places.
Yeah, and you rumbled about I just love breathing.
It's true. That's why I don't want to drown.
I don't think anyone wants to drown.
Oh my gosh. Okay, go on, Sam. Unrelated.
Oh, it's going to be a mess.
Sorry.
So outside, John sees Phil pull up because obviously he saw the disaster too and is freaking out. So they go into John's office, they're talking about the numbers, and John clearly has some kind of PTSD. And there are 2 disasters left. John calls them warnings meant for him, which seems pretty arrogant.
It does.
Oh yeah, why are you so special, John?
Well, because his son is hearing stuff.
Yeah,
he doesn't
okay.
know that, though.
No. So Phil eventually says, we probably shouldn't have any more to do with this. We should just let this go and leave it. And then he leaves and drives away. And as he drives away, we see out in the woods watching the house is a creepy dude. One of the
janitors.
Not the janitors, Danielle. Different people. I don't know how to explain this to you. They're different people. So Caleb was sleeping inside and he wakes up suddenly as the creepy guy sneaks into his room.
No. Why?
Yeah. And he's standing there all ominous and foreboding in his black, trench coat.
Is there ominous music playing, Sam?
We hear whispers.
Of course.
Probably ominous music, I don't remember, but definitely the whispers. The whispers follow this man. And the man stands there looking at Caleb, and he lifts a finger and points. But he's not pointing at Caleb, he's pointing just past him out the window. And Caleb looks and sees there's this light coming in through the window. And he goes to the window, and he looks outside as the whispers grow louder and louder, and he sees a massive forest fire. Just fire everywhere. And then something both hilarious and disturbing happens, which is a moose on fire bursts out of the woods.
Oh no, poor moose.
It's freaking CG, obviously. But it's just oh, look, a flaming moose. How about that?
See, the moose didn't stop, drop, and roll off.
No, it didn't. But nobody taught it to, Danielle, because it's a moose.
It should have paid attention in elementary school.
All right, I'm done with you, Danielle. It's very disturbing because the fire is creepy and there's all these animals suffering.
Oh no, that would be super freaky.
It's kind of hilarious to see a moose burst out of the woods on fire, flaming moose is running through the woods. It's so weird. This movie does some really interesting kind of unnerving things.
Yeah, unnerving is a good word for that, for sure.
And so then you see this wave of animals all running. So most of them are on fire.
No, it's so sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. And then Caleb screams, waking up John, who runs upstairs to find Caleb sort of in the fetal position on this floor beneath his window.
And he was unconcerned about the shadow guy in his room.
Well, there was no one in his room.
But I'm talking about Caleb was.
Caleb was just sort of compelled to look at the window.
Okay, I'm just going to go with that Caleb does not seem to have any sense of stranger issues.
I think these strangers the whispers say something to them, Danielle.
Right, I'm assuming.
And then out the window, John sees the creepy man disappearing into the woods behind his house. He runs outside with a baseball bat and a flashlight to chase off the guy, but he's already gone. So he just screams, "Stay away from us!" and hits a tree with the baseball bat. Because
get out his anger.
Yeah, basically.
Cheap therapy.
Yeah. So the next day, John takes Caleb with him as he drives past the house where Lucinda used to live. He got it from some newspaper clipping.
Did she die young? Did we get into her death at all?
A little bit. So, a woman and a girl come out of the house, and they get into their car, and John follows them to a museum. And so he sends Caleb to go check out the wolves where the little girl is standing, while he goes and talks to the mother.
They live in a big city? Small town?
Well, they're in wherever MIT is, so probably.
Oh, okay.
So the girl notices Caleb's hearing aid and talks about how all wolves are born deaf, and they start striking up a conversation on their mutual love of animals.
All wolves are born deaf? Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just as a way to make conversation because she notices his hearing aid.
I didn't know that.
We learn something new from movies every day, Danielle.
Apparently.
Apparently there are 4 million habitable planets in the solar system.
It's there's always the other stuff we learned.
Meanwhile, John goes to talk to the mom, played by Rose Byrne.
Ooh, are they going to be a romantic interest?
We'll get to that, Danielle.
Uh-huh.
You do not know where this is going. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm sure I don't. It's a Nic Cage movie. It could literally go anywhere. Pretty sure they're aliens from space. The black rock is like a space rock. Sure.
So John makes some very awkward small talk, and she's clearly not feeling this. She's like, why is this weirdo talking to me? Because her kids are talking. These are her friends. They both like animals. And it's like,
no,
creepo, get away from me. And then he explains how Caleb was not deaf. Sounds just get jumbled up for him sometimes, and the hearing aid helps. So I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but there we go. That's the answer. So Caleb and Abby, which is the name of the girl, come over. They ask to go get a drink, and John's like, sure, you want to come get a drink with us? And the mom, Diana, is like, sure. So they all go to get a drink, and John is talking to Diana, and they're asking about each other's history and how Diana dumped her ex-husband, and then she asks about his wife, and she's like, oh, she died, and it's very sad. And then John goes, look, it wasn't an accident I met you here.
Oh, Nick.
And she's like, oh, what? And he goes on I have a question about your mother. Did she have an ability? Did she have a gift?
Oh, God.
And Diana is like, we're done. And is gets up to leave. And John's like, before she gets up, he's like, look, I got this letter from my kid's school. It has predictions.
Holy cow.
Dan gets up to leave, and then John gets up and grabs her, and he's like, this is, Nick Cage being very intense, which is wonderful.
Which is always way scarier than any other person being intense.
Yeah, it's really I would be freaked the heck out. He's like, I followed her prediction. I was there when 81 people died, and there was nothing I could do. And 170 will die tomorrow in New York City, and in 3 days' time, 33 more. Which, not to minimize it, but 203 people is not a huge world-ending catastrophe if that many people die in the next, it's not good. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but also it doesn't necessarily warrant that kind of intensity.
No, it doesn't. But if you really believed that you had found this thing that told you about these different disasters, wouldn't you maybe feel some kind of personal responsibility to try and stop them?
A little bit,
somehow?
but also, what can you do? What is he going to do to prevent the plane crash, Danielle? Is he going to stand in the sky and be like, hey, turn around, go back?
I mean, that's the problem that What's-Her-Face ran into in Eternal Enemy, right? When she gets the video of the future.
Yeah, right.
Then she can't stop the future.
And he also doesn't know what the disasters are going to be. He just knows something's going to happen, which again, we'll get to in a moment why this is an impossible task he's given himself. Anyway, Diana pulls away from him and flees to the parking lot. John follows her, saying all these things about how this is something to do with his son, and his son's in danger. And Diana says, I can't help you, and leaves because this is crazy. And also, John is making a lot of assumptions about the danger to his son. Later, we see John back in his house, in his office. He has a gun, I guess a newly purchased revolver he's picked up.
To stop the disasters? Or to, stop the strangers?
No, I think he picked up the gun because of the strangers that are following them, which makes a little bit more sense than trying to stop the disaster. But who knows, Danielle? He's clearly unraveling.
Clearly.
And we hear on the news that there's threat of a terrorist attack on the East Coast city, which John thinks, that's what's going to happen to the disaster tomorrow. It's going to be a terrorist attack in New York City. So we cut to that night, and we see a bunch of creepy dudes standing out in the woods staring at John's house.
So these creepy dudes, are they dressed a specific way? Do they have fedoras
They're all dressed
on?
the same in black, all black, with black trench coats.
Okay, of course, trench coats. I should have known.
I said trench coats 7 times.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to that. I got sidetracked by the many other things happening in this movie.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here to keep me on my toes.
I was still thinking about whether I should stop, drop, and roll.
Well, why don't you go ahead and do that, Danielle? I'll keep talking.
Okay, on it, go.
So, inside, John is still studying the paper and looking up the coordinates, and he finds the exact location of the disaster in New York, and he calls the FBI tip line and, shouts at them, this is where the attack's gonna be. It's at this place and this place. Cordon off the area tomorrow. Don't anyone near it. No, this isn't a crank call. And then he hangs up. And that's not gonna convince anybody.
It's not, and they probably have your number or whatever now.
It's that's an insane way to let me just call and shout them. And the guy's like, sir, let me put you into sir. And he's just hangs up. Doesn't let the other guy talk at all. So not very effective.
Yeah, John does not seem very effective at any of this. He's
possibly
terrible. The wrong person to choose.
100% he is. So the next day, John shows up at Grace's house saying, you take Caleb off my hands for a few days. So here you go. So he leaves Caleb with Grace and heads off to New York City. And we see him driving over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan, which makes no sense if you're coming from Massachusetts. Just being clear. You wouldn't go from Brooklyn to Manhattan from Massachusetts.
But they need something iconic for you to look at and go, oh, he's going to New York.
Well, they also panned over the Statue of Liberty, so I think they had it covered.
I don't know then, Sam. They just didn't think about it.
Yep. So John finds parking downtown near the supposed location of the attack. Clearly his warnings were not heeded because everyone's just sort of milling about like normal. You think the FBI would at least like, maybe look into it a little bit if someone called in a crazy rant like that?
You think so?
So he walks into a cop and asks her, why has the intersection not been sealed off? And she's like, what? He's like, why has this intersection been sealed off?
Hey, random cop.
Yeah. He's like yelling at her, like, why have you sealed the intersection? She's like, what are you talking about? Look, sir, why don't you come with me? And then he notices like a black van with two like creepy dudes, like FBI agents, like standing next to him. He's like, just turns the other way and starts running. Which, is a little suspicious. And so the cop chases him a little bit and he runs down into the subway and he starts like blending with the crowd. He starts looking around very intently, like maybe it's down here. That's the problem. Because he's clearly been very paranoid. And he sees a shady guy standing and hiding an obvious bulge beneath his trench coat. And the guy somehow like sees John looking at him and then takes off running. And then John chases after him along the edge of the platform, just like going after him. And then a train pulls up and the man gets on the train and John gets on the train. And then some cops who are following them also get on the train.
It's a party on the train.
Party on the train. And John is chasing the guy through the train cars as he's moving from the front of the train to the back.
Just have a puppy underneath his trench coat.
No puppy. Sorry. So they get to the last car in the train. And the guy's sort of trapped and John is looking at him and, crazy eyes. And the cop busts in, he pulls out his gun and points at both John and the trench coat guy. And the man raises his hand and a bunch of stolen DVDs fall out of his coat.
I can't believe he ran for that.
Yeah, right? Like way over the top. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. And John is like, uh-oh, what's going on? What's going on? And the train doors close and the train drives off. And there's a lot of foreboding sounds of sparks and creaking metal. But honestly, that's just kind of how the subway sounds. So not really that unusual. But the ominous music, Danielle, is there to help tell you that it's dangerous.
That's more dangerous than the usual.
Exactly. So John looks terrified. He was looking around all freaked out. And then suddenly the train, there's some kind of weird switch problem and the train derails and is crashing up and hops up on top of a platform and is crashing through the subway and people are getting crushed beneath the train and being thrown around. John's like, get to the back! And ducks for cover. And it's again, a very effective disaster scene where it's this is horrifying as people are being mowed down by this train crashing through a station platform.
So this is where 100 and something odd people die.
Yeah, 170. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're after John here.
Well, to be fair, John put himself here.
That's true, but what are the chances that he went to the exact thing that was going to go wrong?
It's actually very, very unlikely, but somehow he did it, Danielle.
Because in reality, it could be anywhere in that little area.
Exactly. Or it could have been anything. It could have been a bomb. It could have been a plane crash. It could have been a car crash. It could have been literally anything. It could have been a building collapse, a crane collapse.
But nope, he happened to get on the right subway.
Exactly, the one that happened to crash. But luckily, John manages to protect himself and a woman and her baby, and they get off the car, and we fade to black. Fade back in on people struggling out of the subway, staggering up through the tunnel, looking frazzled, as sad music plays. So no more ominous music, it's sad music time.
This is not going to help his PTSD.
No, it's not. We hear some news voiceovers talk about the disaster. One mentions a possible link between sunspots and the recent plane crashes and also somehow the subway.
Yeah, the subway is very controlled by the whims of the sun.
I know, it would be a little weird, but go with it, I guess.
It's like the opposite of things that are controlled, like crabs that are controlled by the lunar cycle.
Well, those are real, Danielle. We know this.
Yeah, I know. We Googled it, but... it's much like that, but with the sun and the subway system, you just didn't realize.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should really brush up on the subway here. So John picks up Caleb from Grace's house and he drives home and finds Diana and Abby sitting there. Clearly, she saw the news about the New York City crash and is like, uh-oh, this is all for realsies.
Uh-oh.
Caleb takes Abby inside while Diana and John talk. Diana says that her mother used to talk about October 19th, which is the next disaster, all the time. It was the day Diana was going to die.
That's concerning. Does she die? I have no idea where this movie's going.
I thought she was the romantic interest, Danielle.
I mean, maybe, but she might die. This movie could totally kill off the characters. If Nic Cage didn't have a kid, I would assume that he might die more.
So we cut to John. He's driving everyone somewhere. In the car, Diana feels burdened by what her mother has told her. She doesn't really believe people can predict the future, but either way, she doesn't want to know what the future holds. So this is kind of the title, Knowing. Ooh.
Okay, so question.
Yeah.
He knows the coordinates, right?
Yes.
So why don't they just go anywhere else?
I think he wants to prevent the disaster more than he wants to avoid it.
Or he could save Diana with the one thing he has control over.
I'm not disagreeing, Danielle, but you're about to see why this is all way weirder than that.
Just say, in reality, there's no way you're going to stop this disaster. You couldn't stop the last one. In fact, you ended up in the middle of it. So why would you just not drive the opposite direction?
That'd be my instinct too. Be like, I'm just going to go somewhere else. But John tells Diana about his wife and how she died and how he was miles away and he felt nothing when she died. Like, she died in a fire from smoke inhalation. She was unaware of what was happening. She died in her sleep and he didn't notice it. And then he decided at that moment, no one could know what was coming. Life was random and none of it mattered. So that was his sort of like fall from grace moment, I guess.
I was going to say it's come to Jesus moment, but I guess it's not.
Exact opposite of that, I think, Danielle. Probably where he has fallen out with his father, too.
The fall away from Jesus moment.
Yeah. But now he says if he had that list before, he could have saved his wife's life. I'm like, I don't think that's true.
Well, no, because why would he know?
Yeah, how would he know, like, that it was smoke inhalation? How would he call the hotel and say, hey, you're on fire, get everyone out? I mean, maybe, but, like, how would he know what the disaster would have been? It's all true. Very, like, he hasn't done so hot anyway up to this point in preventing any of the disasters he's encountered so far.
Yeah, he's been pivotal to them, in fact.
Well, no, he's been irrelevant to them, Danielle.
Well, yeah, but he's been present.
But, like, my point is knowing is different than having any actual power.
So this is the last one on the list, right?
The last one is the last one on the list, yes.
Okay.
Anyway, they turn off the road into a mobile home that's in the woods, overgrown, dilapidated, but Diana knows this place. As they're walking up, Diana notices something that the last digit on the page, 33, which is the body count, actually look like backwards E's. Like it's a EE, not a 33, because kids tend to write things backwards, like Lucy in Peanuts.
Sure, but she didn't do it for the entire rest of the page, just this one thing.
Yeah, so it's also very convenient.
Okay.
John's like, oh, they're probably initials or something. Inside the house, Diana explains this was her mother's house, and that she would come visit her when her father would let her, but that her mother overdosed in here, and she hasn't been back since.
So is this the coordinates of the last thing?
No, this is just her mother's house.
Oh, okay.
They're going, because obviously John wants to know more about Lucinda and her predictive powers.
Sure. I'm not sure if that matters in reality, but in this movie, I'm sure it does.
So in one room of the house, they find the walls covered with news clippings of all the disasters and one illustration of like divine knowledge or something being passed down to somebody, or maybe it's an apocalypse scene. I don't know. It's probably some very famous like religious artwork that I just don't know. Diana takes the illustration off the wall and pockets it.
Did they ever say if Lucinda had like these things the rest of her life? Did she hear the voices, or she just became obsessed with the stuff that she had found out when she was a kid?
Unclear.
Okay.
I don't know, Danielle. They don't go into it. She's just dead.
It's a shame.
As they're about to leave, John finds a rock, just like the one that was given to Caleb, on the ground in the house.
Uh-oh.
In fact, as he looks further, he finds a small pile of them. We cut to the car where we hear whispers, and then we see all the creepy dudes approaching the car that has Caleb and Abby still in it.
Why would you bring your kids on this adventure?
Yeah, right? So Caleb is obviously freaking out a bit as the voice is whispering. We can finally hear something out of the indistinct whispers. We hear someone saying, "Come with us."
Ew.
Inside, John flips up the bed, and on the underside of the bed is scrawled everyone else over and over again, like which is EE. Yes, they put it together. Back at the truck, Abby opens the door to the creepy people because she's not very smart.
Come on. These kids, I swear, I had so much stranger danger when I was a kid. Like, they could have, like, put me within 100 foot of somebody I didn't know.
So Caleb leans on the horn, which brings John and Diana running out, and the creepy people all just disappear. They're off in the woods, and Caleb explains that a group of creepy people had, as Abby calls them, the whisper people, had said they could go with them. And then John sees the back of one of them disappearing into the woods. So he grabs his gun from the glove compartment and chases after through the tall grass.
That's another horror movie entirely.
Yeah, nice callback, right? Yeah.
Do they get lost and there's little kid voices? And I don't know how that movie ended. Everybody dies. They get out of time.
What happens is actually much weirder. So he finds the creepy guy standing in a clearing and back to him, and he demands to know what they want with his son. Like, what do you want with my son? He's like going full Nic Cage. And the creepy guy just turns slowly to face him. He opens his mouth wide, and a blinding beam of light shoots out of his mouth and blinds John right in the face.
Sure, why not?
And when John recovers, the man is gone.
It'd be like a really cool trick.
It's a nice party trick.
Get away! And you just open your mouth and shoot them all down.
Just open your mouth and just a big beam of light. Just, I can't see! You don't need your, like, phone flashlight at all. So they all go back to John's house, and he and Diana confirm they both have been followed by these creepy people. They've seen them around before. They also conclude the last entry is the apocalypse, because everyone is dying tomorrow. That's the date.
Yeah, everyone else. What's the 33 plus everyone else?
It's just 33 is not part of it. It was 33. They thought, but there's EE.
Oh, that's right. Forgot.
You don't have real trouble with this movie, Danielle.
I had 33 stuck in my head, and then as I was saying that, I was like, oh wait, it was an EE.
Diana is appropriately kind of freaking out, but they decide just to go to bed because what are they going to do right now about the apocalypse?
That's true. I don't know if you'd sleep well, though.
Yeah, right. And so John gets into bed with Caleb and is like, you got to get your sleep, buddy. And then Caleb asks him, are Abby and me going to die?
Yes.
And John says, no, I'll never let that happen. I'm like, buddy, you don't have that power.
Does everybody die at the end of this movie, Sam?
We'll get to it, Danielle. Stop trying
we just did a movie where everybody probably died.
I promise, Danielle, this is not going where you think it is.
Okay, great.
So anyway, John just lies to his son and calls it a night. So the next day, John walks in to see Abby coloring in the illustration they took from the wall, and she's like, hey, it's the sun, as she's coloring in that some part of the painting of the drawing. And then he has a flash of insight. They all rush to MIT Observatory, where John breezes past Phil, who's like, hey, what's going on? Haven't heard from you in a few days.
Apocalypse, don't have time to talk.
Basically, so John goes up to a computer and he starts typing some stuff out, and then he's like, I've got it. The sun is going to emit a super flare, a 100 microtesla wave of radiation that's destroy the ozone layer, killing every living organism on the planet.
How does he figure that out?
He studied a super flare from another star. He's like, it's the same thing.
What? No.
Yeah, basically, I think he's like, thinks that, and he's like, well, there's also like heat from the sun. There are a bunch of solar flares. They talk about solar flares in the movie, so it puts a little bit down there, but he's jumping to some pretty big conclusions. Also, some problems with this scene. First, 100 microtesla is nothing. A refrigerator magnet is like 5 millitesla, so it's like 500 times more powerful or whatever. So 100 microtesla is, I think they meant like megatesla or something, but whatever. Second, a Tesla is a measure of magnetic field strength, not radiation, so that's another strike. And third, this might be true. I don't know. If the ozone layer was blown away by a solar flare, would that kill everybody instantly? I mean, how bad is that?
Like, would they just sunburn really bad?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be good, but I don't think it would be like instant apocalypse if the ozone layer was blown away.
Like everybody would just explode.
Just like people in a grip in a microwave.
What if you're in a place that doesn't like get much sun, or you're in an underground bunker, you're in basement when it happens?
Yeah, so this seems like it's not such a huge, like, oh, no, ozone layer, that's bad. But we had a hole in our ozone layer for quite a while, and, like, we managed to power through that.
So it's, like, arguable that everyone else would die on that one day.
Yeah, instantly. This is not necessarily qualified as an apocalypse. But also, I say, he makes this conclusion with no evidence. He just jumps to sun's going supernova. Got it. Well, super flare, but whatever.
That's what we get for somebody who's head of the Historical Society.
I believe you mean astrophysicist. So Phil is reasonably scared, and he goes like, we have to like call some, we have to warn the NOAA, we have to tell everyone. And Don's like, they already know, they'll announce it soon enough. I'm like, wait a minute.
How does he know that?
He's like, they already know, there's nothing they can do about it, so they're just waiting to announce it when they won't cause a panic or something. I'm like, this is stupid. It's going to cause
a panic. Like, why would you even bother announcing it? Just like, clearly nobody's going to survive that, supposedly. Why would you just like be like, oh well.
Yeah, I know, it's very stupid. Like the whole thing, I mean, it's all this conspiracy stuff is nonsense.
Why would they know?
And then John like looks out the window and laments about like, he thought that there was something he could do, that he got this paper for a reason, but what's the point of having these predictions if he can't stop the end of the world? And Diana hears him say this, that like he can't stop the end of the world, we're all going to die. And she freaks out and runs outside, and John runs after her, and she's like, what if we hid in caves? What if we went underground? And John's like, okay, fine, we'll go do that. And he's clearly just kind of humoring her. Because he knows it's not going to help.
But why wouldn't it help?
I think this movie is making nonsense. I think the solar flare is more like the sun is going to explode outward towards us and not just like blow the ozone layer away. I think that's all just technobabble nonsense. I think it means like a fiery end of the world.
Okay, that would make more sense as to why a cave would not work. But
they did not say that. Like he said, a few bits of magnetic field strength are going to blow away our ozone layer and we're all going to die. But I think they mean like, oh, the sun's going to fire at us and blow us up. Like that's not what they said though.
That seems more likely.
Yeah.
Would that really happen all of a sudden, or would you have warning for that if it was going to happen?
Well, presumably they did have warning because NOAA's been tracking sunspots for months now or whatever. And I guess they just concluded there's nothing they could do about it, so why tell anybody?
Sure, why not?
Which is stupid. Because why tell them like right before it happens then?
Yeah, either don't tell them at all or tell them ahead of time.
Yeah, right. Make a useful choice. They all go back to John's house. They start packing supplies. But as Caleb goes off to pack, he hears the whispers again. Meanwhile, John opens the present. It's a locket with a family photo.
Aww.
That's it. That's the present. So John then goes outside to call his dad.
Well, if you know the end of the world's happening, I guess you'd try to make amends with everybody in your life.
Right. So he calls his dad, like, Allison wanted me to call you. I'm sorry it's taking me so long. I don't remember what we fought about. But let me tell you, I have a prophecy for you. The heat is going to get worse. Get everyone you can. Get below ground tonight and try to stay safe. Get to a bunker, get to the basement, whatever. But his dad just goes, if it's my time, it's my time. I'm ready to die. And before they can finish their conversation, the cell phone signal cuts out because of interference, presumably from the solar flares.
I'm assuming from the giant magnet in the sky.
Yes. Back inside, John finds Caleb at his desk writing numbers like Lucinda did. The same numbers. John snaps him out of it, and they all drive to the elementary school because John suddenly has an idea.
He's like, this can't possibly mean anything. Stop writing these numbers down.
John smashes his way into the school and runs to the closet where they found Lucinda all those years ago. He takes a crowbar and rips the door off the hinges and takes it out to his truck and throws it in his truck and then drives back.
That's a choice, I guess.
And Diana's like, John, what are you doing? We need to get to the caves. We have to get to the caves,
picture.
John.
Cell phone picture probably would have sufficed.
No, because John, he goes, Lucinda tried to write down the coordinates of the last event, but she was interrupted. He then pulls into his house, and he takes the door into his workshop, and he takes out a heat gun to start stripping the paint off the door.
It's been repainted since then.
Well, it's been 50 years, Danielle. I'd imagine they didn't leave bloody fingerprints over the door for 50 years.
Well, it was inside the closet, right?
It was on the inside of it, but I don't think they want to leave bloody fingerprints.
I just wasn't sure if they were using the closet door. They had it all locked up. Maybe they just were like, we're never going to use this closet again.
The door was not locked. It was open.
No, I thought they pried it. Or he pried it off.
Yeah, he ripped the hinges off.
Got it.
So he starts, stripping the paint off the door, and Diana's like, what the heck is wrong with you? We are going to the cave. And John's like, no, you gotta trust the numbers. And the numbers are the key. They'll tell us where to go for this time, where we're going to be safe. And Diana's like, okay. And then she goes outside, grabs the kids, and gets them all into her car, and then leaves. Because she's like, I'm not taking with this crazy pants guy.
Was Lucinda, not coherent enough after that to say, hey, I wrote down the coordinates for safety on this door?
She just didn't share anything about it. She didn't say anything to anyone. It's what they said.
That's a choice.
I'm sure she had her reasons, Danielle.
She was probably traumatized.
Or she just had other reasons, which we might get to.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Sam, sorry. I thought the Lucinda story was done, so I was just remarking.
It largely is, but there's more to the background here.
Okay, all right. I'm here. Let's do it.
So Diana's completely gone by the time John gets the paint off and finds the numbers and takes a picture with his cell phone to go out and tell them.
Oh, good job.
So he gets in his truck and chases after them. He doesn't know where they are. He's just chasing them somewhere.
It's like, I gotta be somewhere.
So in her car, Diana tries to call John, but there's no signal. Then Abby tells her they can't hide from the whisper people. They know where they are. They whisper into their heads.
Why is Diana calling John? I thought she was mad
to
at him.
tell him, I was where we're going to the caves or something like that.
Well, he has to know they're going to the caves.
Maybe, but she doesn't know where the caves are. It's like someplace Diana knows.
Well, then you mean he doesn't know where the caves are? She knows?
Yeah,
okay.
Someplace Diana knows.
Well, maybe Diana should have waited 10 seconds.
Well, she didn't want to because she was freaking out about the apocalypse, Danielle.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Context.
Again, everyone is not the most rational person in the world. So Abby, talking about the whisper people, clearly freaks Diana out. And she's crying and driving erratically, and she almost gets hit by somebody. And then Caleb asks to call his dad, and this is my favorite line reading the entire movie. I'm going to try to do justice to it, but she's crying and goes, the phones are down. I promise he's right behind us. We'll call him when we get there. And it's hilarious. It's great. It's wonderful. I love it. So they pull into a gas station, and while refueling, an emergency broadcast comes out about how everyone should take shelter. There are going to be some solar flares, but it's probably fine.
You're probably going to die.
Yeah. And so, meanwhile, Caleb spots a payphone, and he calls his dad, which works, even though his dad is still on a cell phone that went out earlier. So I don't know what's on that.
Maybe they caught a dip in the solar flares.
Who knows? So Diana comes out and takes the phone as John's trying where are you? Where are you? And he's trying to tell John where it is. And then Diana takes the phone and John tells her, I have the coordinates. They're your mom's mobile home. And Diana's like, you want me to go towards the place where the disaster will happen? She's like, no, in this case, it's the only chance we have. It's the only risk we have to take. We're all going to die. And he's freaking out doing his, Nick Cage thing.
Okay. I still don't understand why Lucinda didn't just tell her daughter that.
Because she couldn't, Danielle.
Okay.
Diana insists the caves are the best chance. And then John yells how the caves won't save them. The radiation will penetrate a mile deep. Everyone's going to die. There'll be no place that's safe. And he's just yelling and yelling. While he's yelling at Diana notices a rock on top of the payphone, just like the ones they've seen all over the place now, the black rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you know it, the creepy people are here. They get into her car and drive off with it with the kids in tow.
That's not good.
Yeah, so the kids are now with the creepy people in her car. So Diana freaks out, steals another car, and chases after them.
Are the kids the future of society?
Daniel, you gotta stop. As she cuts around a bunch of traffic, she barrels through a red light and is T-boned by a semi-truck, just like tossed end over end, but is still alive.
Well, that's good, I guess.
So meanwhile, John is barreling through the gas station and gets a lead on where Diana is. Like, he gets to the gas station, gets on, is talking to the guy behind the counter. Meanwhile, everyone's looting the store, and the guy behind the counter is like, yeah, it's fine. This is just like Y2K. They'll wake up feeling really goofy tomorrow.
Or dead.
And like, did you see a yelling lady run through here? He's like, oh yeah, she went that way. So he gets a lead on her and he peels off after her. And he finds the accident with Diana and there's like chaos and the police are like cordoning off the area. And he just walks up to the ambulance where they're trying to defibrillate Diana for some reason, because that's what defibrillators do.
I thought she was okay.
She was alive. I didn't say she was okay.
Oh, that's true. Apparently, only kind of alive.
Yeah. Well, then she dies. She doesn't make it. The EMT's like, declare her dead just after midnight on the day her mother said she would die.
What is the point of Diana as a character?
She gets the kids kidnapped.
Yeah, I guess her entire purpose in this entire movie is to get her kids kidnapped.
So the EMTs are just clear out to go help someone else, and John goes inside the ambulance and is like, no, Diana. And then he finds in her hand the rock clutched in her hand. He then drives to the mobile home, Lucinda's home, because premonition, I guess, like, might as well try it. And he sees tracks leading out into the woods from the other car. So he follows them in his truck, clutching his gun in one hand, which is hilarious.
Is he like freaking out because his kid's gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's trying to find his kidnapped son. His whole
I got that. I just like you kind of glossed over that. I was just making sure that he was aware.
He's very much aware. And then, as he's driving, he comes into a sea of black rocks. Just a whole field of those tiny little black rocks, like gravel over the entire area. Like a massive area, like acres of it. And he finds Diana's car abandoned. He gets out and he looks around. He's calling for Caleb, and he spots the creepy guy. And he demands to know where Caleb is. And he points the gun at the guy and is about to shoot when Caleb runs up to him and says, "Dad, don't!" And he's holding a little white rabbit.
Okay.
More of the creepy guys show up, and so does Abby, also holding a little rabbit. And Caleb's like, "Oh, they said we can keep it. It's our new friend."
Yeah, well, if there's one rabbit, there's often more.
Thank you for that, biology lesson.
Just throwing it out there. Since we don't have a biologist on our podcast. Yes,
well, we guess you can suffice. So Caleb and Abby say they should go with the Whisper people, that they have been protecting them. And then John, he tells Abby that he's sorry Diana couldn't be here. She wanted to be here. And Abby's like, "Oh, I know, but she's safe now. The Whisper people told me she's safe." And I'm like, well, they clearly did not do a very good job protecting her.
I mean, she's safe in a metaphysical way.
Something like that. And then John asks again, like, "Who are you? Who are they?" And then the wind picks up, and we pan up to see a bright celestial light come down through the cloud, and a massive structure lowers itself through like a funnel, a hole in the sky. John falls to his knees as the strangers turn away, and Caleb says, "It's time to go. They've chosen us so we can start over, so everything can start over."
The future of civilization.
Kind of. Not really. So a weird ball descends from the sky through the portal, like the sky portal, whatever it is. All very like hard to describe. It's all just kind of abstract. It's like some spire that like ejects a ball at the bottom of it. I don't know. And so John and his kids approach it, but one of the creepy guys stops them. Caleb clearly has a conversation with him in like his head that John can't hear. And he learns that only Caleb was chosen. He can't go. And only those who heard the call can go. So heard the whispers. Mm-hmm. John's like, "Please, let me go with my son." And the man just turns and walks away. So John tells Caleb, "I can't go with you, but you have to go. Only the kids have chosen, but you wouldn't have to go. You have to take care of Abby, to be strong for her." And Caleb's like, "I don't want to go without you, Dad." But John insists, and he tells him they'll all be together. All of us, and Mom too. And he gives Caleb the locket, and Caleb finally agrees and walks away towards the sphere as the weird people bodies kind of dissolve into humanoid figures made of light.
So he's assuming it's definitely safer with them than it would be
on Earth.
On Earth.
I guess so.
Yes, given the options.
Yeah, they all go inside the sphere, and Caleb and John, they sign their special "we'll be together forever" kind of thing as the sphere ascends with the children into the sky. And the whole weird structure sort of folds up into a big spire, and then it retreats into the sky, and John stands there and watches it, and some of the rocks sort of fill up around him as it retreats. And above Earth, we see several such spires, a dozen, maybe more, zipping off into space. Back on the ground, John collapses sobbing. Cut to the next day. It's raining, or at least the morning, I guess, of this day. It's morning.
So it's the same day. It's the day at the end of the Earth Day.
Yeah, it's the end of the Earth Day. So John is still laying there where he was left. It's raining. He gets back up and into his car, and he drives back to the city. I don't know which city. I don't think it's New York. There's an aurora clearly visible in the sky from all the energy from the sun.
Sure.
And cities are burning.
Were the coordinates where was that where the big field was?
Yeah, pretty much.
Why didn't he just stay there? He thought that was a safe place.
Well, that was it. That was a safe place. These kids got on the safety, and he's not getting on the safety.
So he's assuming that, like, it wouldn't be safe past that.
No, like, Caleb explains to him that, like, they sent messages out ahead. They were trying to help us. They sent a message to help us, so to clear the way or whatever, to lead the way. I'm like, that's not very helpful, their messages. And so anyway, cities are burning, there's chaos, there's pandemonium, there's looting, all that kind of stuff. And there's, soft classical music playing as John drives through the chaotic streets.
Impressed he can get through them.
Well, apparently they make way for him just fine.
Oh, John's coming, everybody get out of the way.
Pretty much. And they get up to a house. It's his parents' house, and his Grace is there, and he goes inside, and he tells her Caleb is safe. And he goes inside to make amends with his father, who tells him, this isn't the end. To which John replies, I know. And they all hug as a wave of fire sweeps over the earth, shattering buildings, tossing cars like leaves in the wind. And we pull out to see the earth from space being scorched clean by fire.
The end.
Cut to Caleb and Abby, who are standing on a weird alien grass
more.
field. Yeah, there's more, right? It keeps going. This movie's 2 freaking hours long.
I just kind of thought we were at the 2-hour mark and that was the end.
No. So we get to Caleb and Abby, who are standing in a weird alien grass field wearing white robes. The weird Spire spaceship is leaving them there as they put their rabbits down. They run off through the field of a pristine world towards a glowing tree as we see more Spire ships dropping people off and departing.
Are they all children?
I don't know. We don't see who has departed. We just see the Spire ships leaving. Presumably they drop more people off. The music swells with hope and promise. Fade to black. The end.
I don't understand why they would care. These alien light being creatures, like, why would they even bother?
Here's the thing. Are they aliens or are they divine? We don't know the answer to that question.
It doesn't really matter. Why even bother? Like, are these the chosen ones, like the best of humanity? Or
yeah, why are the people who can hear the whispers the chosen ones? Yeah. I don't know about that. Also, I guess like the whole premise is there's some alien, like remember, like, oh, there are 10 million habitable planets. So they split up, like, oh, give you another one. You'll be fine here. I'm like, that's not really how it would work. Like, how are children going to rebuild civilization? Like, they have no infrastructure. There's no farming. There's no food sources for them here. They brought 2 rabbits.
And they don't know anything about any of that. Like,
is anyone healthy? Can they eat the grass here? Is there wheat? It looks like wheat. I don't know.
And John, I don't know if he really believed that there'd be some kind of future, but the presence of light being alien and creatures does not then suggest that there's also an afterlife.
I know. The whole thing, like, oh, we'll be fine. I think he has to, like, believe it for his own sake. But, like, I love that John, irrelevant to this whole thing. Like, he is the like, oh, this paper's for me. Like, no, you're unimportant.
You're a tool to get the child to the correct place.
Right. Like, even then, like, they actually need John. Like, they kidnapped the kid and took him there themselves.
That's like, true. They could have just showed up at his bedroom one night and been like, come on, let's go.
Yeah, I know. It's like, this whole movie is pointless. Like, the whole warning is like, why have this warning if nobody can stop it? Like, this weird esoteric warning about these coordinates, and then every one of these coordinates where a disaster happens, the last coordinate happens to be where the disaster won't happen. And you have to get to that place, and you'll be safe. But only these special people can get there, but they're not the people who can actually figure out what's happening in the paper.
So is the thought process of the light creatures to basically be like, surely somebody will figure out this jumble of numbers and go to the last location on this pile.
But the people who figures it out are the people who can't actually go with them. It's only the ones who hear the whispers who don't need to figure out the jumble of numbers because they got it in their heads from the whisper people.
Yeah, wild, man.
It's like the whole movie's irrelevant. It's all pointless. Diana was pretty pointless. John is very pointless.
And is this supposed to be a warning? They said it was a warning for humanity?
No, it was like something to lead the way, to clear the way.
For the, I don't know, 40 people that survived.
Yeah, but why? Like, no one figures it out. And, like, it doesn't help Lucinda, who was one of the people who heard the whispers, but she didn't get saved.
It's true. That's a good argument, Sam.
So I'm very I'm with you, Danielle. The motives of these aliens are suspect and very weird. Like, they only want the children. That's not okay. They don't let the parents come. Doubly not okay. They're kind of capricious in who they pick to come with them. And their methods of attracting people to them are to whisper in their heads and maybe leave behind escape room style clues of nonsense.
Escape room style.
I don't know, man. It's weird. It started out, I was like, oh, this is going to be disaster movie where the whole thing is about, does knowing if a disaster is going to happen, is that worse if you know you can't prevent the disaster? I thought it was going to be some kind of philosophical wrestling with that concept based on the title being knowing. Mm-hmm. None of that matters.
No, it's not.
It's just an apocalypse movie and the kids get saved.
By light being creatures.
By light being aliens, possibly angels. Not sure.
Well, that was a movie. That seems like a movie Nick Cage would be in.
It's great. And like I said, it is a very unnerving movie at times. The disaster scenes are very good, but they're also just Diana acts crazy the whole time. She's always yelling. Nick Cage is always yelling. They're all just yelling. It's really great. Everyone, no one's behaving, you're right, Daniel. No one behaves rationally. No one's thinking. They're all just screaming and reacting. It's really great.
That's crazy.
And I did not see it going there from the start.
No, what a weird movie.
Also, that description did not prepare you for this movie at all.
No, what the heck? I'm going to argue, I'm sticking with my alternate reality theory that there is a version of this movie that exists where he is head of the historical society and he is summoned and there's a water drain break and, I don't know, nonsense ensues, and there are not being creatures at the end of it.
I mean, if any of our listeners out there have seen that version of this movie or can explain how this description got put on this movie, we are desperate to know. Please contact us from your parallel universe.
Is anybody in the 2019 universe that can tell us?
Oh, please. We need so much help. You got to explain this to us.
I'm assuming there's an alternate reality where our podcast still exists and they're in 2019 reality.
That seems
split.
Unlikely, Danielle. The only reason our podcast exists is because of disaster.
That's true. Good point, Sam.
So anyway, if you need to do that, you can always reach us at bookretorts.com.
Or you can tweet at us, Facebook, Instagram us at bookretorts.
And if you want to support us, you can do so at Patreon, where we have bonus episodes. But also, this is the last episode before our great switcheroo, which Danielle and I have picked out media for the other one to do.
Yay!
So if you're not sure what we're talking about, check out the small little bonus episode that was dropped in this feed immediately before this episode, in which we explain what's going on, and you can enjoy the weird media we picked out for each other.
And yeah, that's next week with me starting.
Yes, with Danielle starting with the film Ice Pirates, which might mean something
classic.
to you. And I'll be following it up with the book Bury Me Deep by Christopher Pike.
Yeah, it's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that one. So look forward to that. And until next time, bye.
Take care, everybody. You know what that movie is? It's actually one of Nick Cage's visions from Next. It's when he does
those 2-minute vision where he sees the future.
And he sees a completely alternate reality.
You've solved the movie, Danielle. It makes total sense now. Thank you.
And then he blinks back and he's like, "Bro, yeah, I'm not doing that."
Yeah, I'm not having a child with my wife who's going to die in a fire. I'm not doing that. Oh, that makes so much more sense, Danielle. And Next was in 2007, so it fits.